ahead and record this just so that this one won't be out on the website like the other ones because it's not pertinent to the general public. Stop calling me, people. And this is our second in the webinar series for the ALERT, or Arizona Livestock Incidents Report Response Team. And I'm Betsy Green, and Debbie Reed and I kind of run herd on it from the office side of things at U of A. And of course, Dr. Peter Munshank, who's down south playing with some cattle, is the state vet. And also from the Ag Agents, Department of Ag. And so tonight we're actually going to do some things on incident command. And we have Dr. Ryan Wolker. I can't read it. I need my real glasses here for computer glasses. Sorry. There we go. Look, it's all in focus now. And he's going to talk about what happens when a call comes in, who makes the decisions, how it goes through all of the people. And then also he'll be talking about samples and things like that. And then last we'll be talking, Debbie Reed will be covering a lot of things on if you're working through with the Department of Ag, if you are doing these things, then how do you get paid? Which is one of those key things, getting reimbursements and or payment for your efforts. So Dr. Ryan Wolker, you want to share your screen and we'll go ahead and get started. Oh, we got Peter on here. Good. Dr. Peter Munshank's here with us too tonight.
Yeah, that, he made the comment down in the chat there on the looking very tropical. So.
Oh, he was the one. Okay.
So let me see if I can get technology working for me here.
Okay. And I've got a geriatric German Shepherd that's retired, requiring some petting next to me here. You know how to share?
I've locked my geriatric German Shepherd out of my office. So.
Okay, perfect. It's coming out.
All
there
right.
we are. Excellent.
So thank you everyone for joining us tonight. As Betsy said, this is the second webinar here in a series of 3. A little bit of this is going to be a tiny little bit of rehash from last time, but today we're going to discuss more in depth kind of how an alert response is initiated, the command structure involved, some things on sample collection, and then just kind of what the whole process looks like. So let's see if my slide advances, which it didn't. Let me try another arrow. Nope.
Sometimes the down arrow, or sometimes just clicking on the little in the lower left-hand corner, there's arrows on.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
That works. All right, so what is the alert program? So the Arizona Livestock Incident Response Team was a program developed roughly 20 years ago in response to some, excessive livestock losses. Arizona, in comparison to some other states, is a fairly extensively livestock managed state. So a lot of, ranging cattle, as opposed to the East Coast, where you have a lot of intensively managed livestock. And so the genesis of alert was basically the kind of geography of Arizona, the wide open spaces, the ability for veterinarians to, get to areas in the state in a timely fashion where we can actually, execute a meaningful response and investigation. And that's kind of how alert came to be. So via the coordination of the Alert Executive Committee, producers can reach out to a team of designated field vets, extension specialists, the Arizona Veterinary Diagnostic Lab, University of Arizona College of Agriculture and Life Sciences, Midwestern University, and other experts, which would include plant, range, animal, wildlife experts, to conduct a health investigation. As was mentioned on the previous webinar, typically these alert investigations are geared more towards cattle, but really all livestock species can be investigated through alert, at the discretion of the executive committee, and that includes equine, swine, poultry in some cases, not necessarily, individual kind of backyard flocks, but, flocks of substantial size, could qualify as well. Any sort of disease outbreaks that would present a public health risk, all of those things. And the important thing here to recognize is that ALERT is a concerted effort between the Arizona Cattlemen's Association, the Arizona Department of Agriculture, and the University of Arizona, including the Cooperative Extension branch. And I think that's just really important to highlight there, because you have this kind of unique mix of academia, state and regulatory government, and then industry partners, and everybody's coming together for the good of the producer here, to help them out with a investigation in a heightened disease event or situation of livestock loss. So this is the investigation flowchart. This was just taken directly out of the ALERT field manual there. And we're going to kind of break this down into a few smaller chunks that are a little bit easier to digest. But basically, if we look at this, and I'm not quite sure how big that shows up on your side, I might just go to the next slide here. We can basically divide it up into two phases. So phase 1 and phase 2. So phase 1 would include, recognition by the producer that there is a problem, on their farm or on their ranch with their livestock. The, subsequent contact of the ALERT program representatives, whether it's the AZDA, U of A, the extension office, their own private veterinarian who can in turn reach out to the ALERT group. There's a variety of ways that producers can reach out. Once that happens, the process continues. The executive will convene, and then it will be decided, does this warrant an ALERT response or investigation, or is it something best handled by the, the producer's individual veterinarian. So once that decision is made, it can go two ways. If it's decided that no investigation is warranted, then that will be documented and subject to future review if necessary as to what the reasoning and the rationale was. But if it does go forward, then the ALERT responder, whether it's the veterinarian, accredited veterinarian involved in the program, or an ALERT extension specialist, will be designated as the responder and execute the investigation. So that's where the ALERT field response comes in. After that, kind of those initial few steps there, a few decisions have to be made. First of all, is this disease outbreak that's occurring, is it possibly a foreign animal disease or a regulatory disease like tuberculosis or brucellosis or something like that? If that's the case, typically those would be handled by our office, so the Office of the State Veterinarian and other foreign animal disease diagnosticians, which may be in the state, which have received training either through military service in some cases, or on the federal side with USDA. So we can pull from those resources as well. In the more common scenario, we may be dealing with vanilla infectious disease outbreaks, so to speak, something that's not quite as exotic or serious as a FAD or foreign animal disease or regulatory disease, a toxicity event, or physical injury, and that will prompt through the ALERT response there, and then samples will be collected, and the whole investigation will ensue. And finally, is the incident a criminal event? So is there evidence that all these cattle have been shot? Are there bullet casings on the ground, or is there evidence of gunshot wound, or something of that nature? Traps, all those sort of things that would lead to involvement of local or state law enforcement. So the ALERT investigation chain of command, it's based on the National Incident Management System and the Incident Command System. And we're going to go a little bit more into detail on these things. So the National Incident Management System really was developed in the 1970s in response to wildfires in Southern California. And the precursor to NIMS was FireScope. That eventually gave birth to NIMS with two I's in it, which was the National Interagency Incident Management System, and then finally to NIMS in 2004 under President George W. Bush after 9/11. And the goal of NIMS is to guide all levels of government, non-governmental organizations, so NGOs, and the private sector to work together to prevent, protect against, mitigate, respond to, and recover from incidents. And so basically it provides stakeholders across the whole community with a shared vocabulary, systems, and processes to effectively work together. And in order to accomplish that, it's sort of further broken down or augmented by the Incident Command System. And the Incident Command System is a standardized hierarchical, it's a tongue twister, structure that allows for cooperative response by multiple agencies, both within and outside of government, to organize and coordinate response activities without compromising the decision-making authority of local command. So when we look at the various incidents that we may be dealing with, you know, they range in size and scope from, you know, small little incidents that can be handled locally with local resources. You know, those local resources, you know, may just be the, you know, the producer and his own personal veterinarian. You step it up a level further, turns into an alert response, and you know that would be sort of a type 4 or type 3 response, where we're actually involving state resources because of the alert program being state funded. All the way up to, you know, type 1 incidents, which would be, you know, the massive wildfire scene in Colorado and California last year, where, you know, there were hundreds, thousands of people involved, you know, multiple agencies, unified command structure, and a prolonged event, you know, an event that was, you know, lasting days, weeks, months, you know, versus a few days. So the vast majority of all the kind of livestock disease events that we would be dealing with are probably, you know, short-term in duration, you know, a few days to, you know, maybe a couple of weeks, and involving a smaller number of personnel to respond to. So this is called the planning P. This is a component of the incident command system. And basically it kind of addresses how, you know, incident springs up, the initial steps that that are put into place, the meeting of the command team, the planning, the preparation, execution of activities in that operational period, and then the whole cycle. Let me get my mouse on here. The whole cycle will continue around through every subsequent operational period, you know, until the point where, you know, the incident is, you know, dealt with or extinguished, and then you'll move into the recovery phases after that. I believe Debbie's going to be touching on this later, so I'm just going to throw this slide up real quick, but I also threw this in here. So this is, you know, where you can go to find the incident command system and NIMS training courses online. So there's no fee for this. This is, you know, operated through FEMA there online. All you have to do is sign up for a student ID. And then the recommended courses are those ones. So 100, 200, 700, and 800, which are just basic introductory courses to NIMS and ICS. So taking a closer look at the ICS system here, this is just kind of a fairly basic generic schematic of what the incident command system looks like. This is actually a little bit, this has a unified command. So, you know, if you had a single incident with a single agency, basically just be an incident command or incident commander. If you had a few agencies, which, you know, in this case, an alert, you know, you have the executive committee, which could be considered the unified command, you know, consisting of University of Arizona, Arizona Cattlemen's, and the state vet office. So under that incident commander, you have the command staff, which consists of the public information officer, the safety officer, and the liaison officer. So the public information officer, obviously, all media releases or anything like that that would potentially be released, or if we had an incident that was large enough or rare enough that it attracted media attention, all kind of media responses would go through the public information officer. The safety officer would be responsible for safety of all participants responding to the incident, and then the liaison officer is responsible for liaising with various agencies and other entities. Below that, we have the general staff, which consists of the operations section chief, the planning section chief, logistics section chief, and then the all-important finance administration section chief. So as Betsy mentioned earlier, that's where the whole how do you get paid, how do you get your supplies, and all that, that's the most important part, really. Now, in an alert response, obviously we don't have the personnel to necessarily occupy all these roles, nor is it necessarily needed. And in most cases, the executive committee, the alert responder, so the veterinarian or the extension specialist, they'll be kind of wearing several different hats in this sort of ICS system. So here up in Unified Command, that's basically the state vet, the alert executive committee, the PIO, so public information officer, that would be Robert Smook at the Arizona Department of Ag. The safety officer, really the alert responder is kind of responsible for their own safety out in the field there. And then again, the alert responder is really kind of arranging everything on their own in conjunction or in consultation with the state veterinarian in terms of the operations planning and logistics. So once notified and activated, that alert responder is going to get in touch with the producer, arrange time and place to meet, and then sort out where they're going to look at the animals, get their samples collected, how they're going to get those back to the lab. AZVDL or the Midwestern University's Diagnostic Path Lab, and then Finance and Administration would be going through AZDA and Linda Gonzalez at our office, I believe. And so why is this important? ICS kind of seems a little kind of dull and drab and a little bit boring. The webinar videos aren't necessarily the most exciting things to listen to, but it really comes into its own when you start looking at the incidents. And in a small incident, just basically one producer, several of his cattle, and the alert responder, that's going to be a small little response, and it's not going to take a whole lot of extra resources or management to deal with that response. But if we take that sort of scenario and extend it further, and let's say for argument's sake, well, it started out on one farm, but now there's 5 other farms down the road that are experiencing a heightened disease event or livestock loss, and now it turns into a multi-state disease outbreak. Now we're going to be pulling resources, not only from the Department of Ag, but probably leaning pretty heavily on all of our alert veterinarians and possibly other accredited veterinarians in the state to help with such a disease response, and federal partners. And it's going to take a lot of management and coordination in order to make that an effectual response. So going back to the flow chart here, how is a response started by a producer? So the producer is going to recognize that they have a event going on their property, and again, they can contact their veterinarian, and that's probably the preferred method, because the veterinarian, even if that specific veterinarian dealing with that farm, even if they aren't an alert responder themselves, they have that personal relationship with the producer. They have that established level of trust, and that relationship that's been cultivated probably over many years to lean on. So that veterinarian, regardless of their alert status, they can contact the people that they need to contact. So that would be an alert certified veterinarian or extension agent, the Arizona State Veterinarian's Office, University of Arizona Veterinary Diagnostic Lab, the local Arizona County Cooperative Extension Office, or even Arizona Department of Agriculture, Livestock officers or inspectors, because our guys on the livestock inspection side of things are out on farms every day doing inspections for animal movement, and if a producer says to them, oh, something weird's going on, they can be directed to the alert program that way as well. So the important thing to recognize here is that alert will only respond at the invitation of the owner or manager, or in response to specific agency requests after review by the executive committee. So after that contact with alert, the executive committee will hold a conference call, especially now in COVID times. It's probably going to be virtual, and then make that decision on, yes, the alert program is going to be activated and a response initiated, or no, and the reasons associated with that will be documented and filed away for future review. So if the alert executive committee members approve the alert response, the following may occur. So we have field investigations, laboratory diagnostics, expert consultations. So all those folks in, that specialize in range management and, toxic plant identification and, feed toxicity and all those sorts of things. Make some recommendations and then follow up with possibly some education and or monitoring for the producer. If an alert response is called, the alert first responder is working for and at the direction of the alert executive committee, and the producer will be notified of all findings. Once an alert response is initiated, the state veterinarian's office shall act as the incident commander. The University of Arizona distributes communications between the Arizona Veterinary Diagnostic Lab, alert executive committee, the alert steering committee, first responders, and any other stakeholders that may need to be kept apprised of the situation. And again, all public communications are going through the PIO. All alert responses are confidential, and in veterinary medicine, just like human medicine, you have a veterinary client-patient relationship, which is sacred, and so while we may share information amongst ourselves in that alert group, it's not leaving that group. So that's where the confidentiality happens, on behalf of the producer. But as we all know, sometimes events are large and they're not exactly able to be kept quiet. So that's where the PIO comes in, and where we have to really have a coordinated response and a unified response to any media inquiries that may arise out of that. So here we're going to go down through the response here. So just going back to this planning P real quick, the producer has their livestock loss event. The alert committee is going to meet in here, decide on what's going to happen, initiate a response. And that's going to get shuffled over to the alert responder. They're going to come up with their planning and operational plan and logistics, and then conduct that investigation and get those samples off to the lab. So why is this chain of command important? Well, first of all, again, going back to the funding of this program, subsidization of the investigation and associated diagnostic costs from the alert fund can only be paid through pre-approved vendors already in the state procurement system. And that's really important. So, one of the things that, we really want to avoid, with these alert responses are, samples being sent to outside labs, possibly without authorization or anything like that, and then having to pay a bunch of bills that either weren't known about or weren't pre-approved. And then two, the coordination of the investigation between the alert executive, the alert responder, and the AZ VDL effectively creates a fusion center with the end goal of providing the producer with a comprehensive report and a cohesive narrative. So we want to give the producer back, hopefully an answer wise animals, died, or at least, rule out a lot of things for them, and then provide them with some, helpful suggestions on how to move forward. So what we don't want. So what we don't want, again, samples being sent to multiple labs by the alert responder, not under the direction of the executive. What happens with that is you get fragmentation of diagnostic reports from multiple labs or subject matter experts. They're not getting collated together into a single report, and the answer that the producer is getting is just really fragmented and sort of all over the place. And then again, if responding to a large event that happens to generate a lot of public interest, no voluntary commentary will be coming out of anybody on the alert team, and hopefully the producer too, to news agencies or other social media that hasn't already gone through or been approved through the PIO. So moving down into phase 2 of the response here from the flow chart. Things that the alert responder is going to need to think about here. Number one, priority number one is always human safety. So, is there a risk to myself? Is there a risk to the producer? What is the appropriate level of personal protective equipment? 2, is this potentially a foreign animal disease from what the producer has described? If it's kind of sounding like it might be, then contacting the state veterinarian or USDA for further guidance if you arrive on farm and things just don't seem quite right. And then again, potentially, is this a criminal matter? Does local law enforcement need to become involved? Because realistically, local law enforcement are the subject matter experts in terms of evidence handling, chain of custody, and sort of building a criminal case. So that's really where we need to lean heavily on them. So that alert field response, the next step will be to establish and maintain contact with the incident commander, which is state veterinarian, and then consult with the incident commander if further questions arrive once on farm. Establish a control area. So, when the alert responder arrives on the farm, they're going to, figure out, okay, where's the best place to park my vehicle? I don't want to be parking right in the middle of a, an area that may be highly contaminated with an infectious agent. Or, I don't want to be parking in an area that I may be driving over criminal evidence. And then, developing a line of separation, clean, dirty line, as it's also called. Then they're going to establish a sample collection and processing site, which is going to be on the dirty side of the line again, and then restrict livestock movement out of the area. And that may be in conjunction with the Arizona Department of Agriculture. Us being, on the regulatory side of things, with the authority of state statute, we can issue the, the hold orders or the administrative orders to put a stop movement on animals if deemed necessary for a disease outbreak. So this is just kind of a schematic here of a control area and a line of separation. So, this would be an example of a intensively managed livestock system. So say like a series of swine barns, typically, they have a lot better biosecurity in place, than, cattle that are just out on range. So, there's usually going to be a common main road, and then a single entry gate. And then, a series of other staging areas outside the barns, which would kind of be the line of separation there once you go through that ante room. In our case in Arizona, given our extensively managed livestock, basically it's probably going to look more like this. So I just stole this photo off the internet, so don't take it with a grain of salt and a little suspension of willing disbelief here. But so you're going to arrive on farm, you're going to park your truck, you're going to decide, okay, which is the clean side, which is the dirty side. Obviously the horse there is on the dirty side. You're going to suit up with your personal protective equipment, figure out everything that you need to collect samples from that animal. Have a little disinfection spot where you can, scrub down your boots, ditch your coveralls or Tyvek suit or whatever afterwards. after you get done looking at that horse. And you're also going to take all your sampling equipment with you. So all your containers, your whirl packs, your secondary packaging, because typically all those containers, whirl packs, formalin containers, they're going to go into a clean secondary container that can be disinfected on the outside with, like, Virkon spray or whatever you're using to disinfect with. And then you can also disinfect the wheels on the truck and everything else before you leave. So kind of probably general guideline, at least how I would probably think of it, is arriving on farm. I kind of want to collect the cleaner samples first. So I'd probably grab some forage, pasture samples, water feed first off. Next step, you're going to collect samples from any surviving or recovered animals, then samples from any clinically ill or symptomatic animals, and then finally samples from any dying or already deceased livestock. And you might not necessarily have all these categories of animals. Sometimes you'll just have number 3. But generally speaking, kind of work your way from healthier to least healthy animals. So sample collection from live animals, there's a few samples that are mandatory to collect. And this is, again, all in the Alert Livestock Field Manual. And one of the things just to touch on here too is that we want to have a very consistent investigation over time and between investigations. So, for all of our alert responders and extension specialists that are responding to these alert investigations, we do want to follow this this protocol here for collection of samples from live and dead animals. So I think can't remember, it might have been Ashley last time. I watched the recorded webinar just to know what was. I missed the first webinar here, but she had mentioned that it's always better to collect all the samples that you may need than not collect enough samples and then find out, oh shoot, I should have collected that, but now it's too late, or you have to make a second trip back to the farm, which may or may not be feasible. So bottom line, kind of stick to the manual and all will be well. So samples we want to collect from a live animal. First off, blood or serum, whole blood, urine, feces, and then milk, and then the kind of recommended amounts there. Generally speaking, for any kind of blood sample, we don't want to freeze those because that's going to lyse the cells and make that sample less useful. So refrigeration only on the blood samples. Urine and feces can be frozen. Milk, again, that's going to be a refrigerated sample. As far as the necropsy goes, I'm not going to kind of go through all of these, but I kind of did the math real quick, and it looks like you're going to need around 19 roll packs for an investigation, 1 culturette swab, and then a series of formalin containers that have adequate volume for a sort of 1:9 ratio between tissue and formalin. But basically all the organ tissues, so liver, kidney, spleen, those are all going to be collected. Diaphragm, heart, lymph nodes, bladder, intestinal tract, various sections of it, rumen content, rumen tissue, eyes, bone, and then any abnormal tissue that you may find, any granulomas or abscesses or anything that looks weird. So the alert responder and producer may arrange transport of dead or dying livestock to AZ VDL or Midwestern University Diagnostic Pathology Lab. I guess I'm not sure if it was this year or last year, but that was the case. It was just easier for the producer to bring the animal in right away. But that's going to be typically only in very specific situations. And again, the important thing here is that transport of that animal to the diagnostic lab must be pre-approved by the state veterinarian in conjunction with AZ VDL or Midwestern. Obviously, again, if we're dealing with infectious disease events, some judgment has to be used there from our department, whether we want to, let those animals come off the property or not. So any transport of animals to the diagnostic lab will need to get pre-approved. So once the investigation is completed, you're going to go, put your samples in that secondary packaging, disinfect the outside of that packaging, and then work on getting disinfected yourself. Again, willing suspension of disbelief. You're not going to have your team of people to disinfect you and declothe you after. So you'll be doing that on your own. And you're also not going to be wearing a spacesuit. But so you're going to get all those samples. You're going to collect them, get them packaged up, along with that handy little history and data sheet that is also in the alert manual. And then that is going to be delivered over to the diagnostic lab of choice. And then all those samples that you did such an amazing job collecting will be tested and or sent off to additional labs for further testing, and hopefully arrive at an answer for the producer there. So I think I've talked enough, and that's pretty much all I have.
Okay, well, that was great. Of course, you have a horse with a kid flipping upside down. We actually had, one of the reasons that we wanted to go over this in a webinar was because we actually have had a couple of cases where they didn't quite go through the right process. And so we were trying to get things just so everybody had the same information. I don't know if you want to say anything as far as, when the animal's sent to the lab. Okay, so Trent asked, should they be dead or alive when the animal is sent to the lab? That was a question.
It could be either, honestly.
Okay, most often it's dead, correct? I mean,
yes, but talking to Dr. Munshank earlier today, I guess they did haul a live one that was subsequently euthanized, but he might be able to better answer that if he's still on the.
No, he had to pitch a meeting, so he came in and made sure everything was going great. Yeah, I know that we had a couple with multiple animals, and some samples went and an animal went, and the animal ended up being one of the ones that was not affected. But yeah, it's an interesting thing. But so if the alert vet or the extension person, whoever was on a call and wasn't quite sure, would they just send that to the vet, the AZ vet email, so that all of you guys got it? So somebody would say, hey, give them an answer, or what? Correct.
Yeah. So either that alert email or the other email that we all get here at the state is disease reporting at azda.gov. And I don't know if somebody or if I can do it, if somebody can put that in the chat, but we can put that email in
our question wrangler. Say that one more time. I just slapped her arm.
It's disease reporting, all one word, at azda.gov.
Okay, so that's in the chat. And so basically, if you send an email to that, it goes to any of the state vets.
Correct.
Associate, assistant, whatever. And so somebody would get back to you.
Yeah.
Okay, so have we had any? I don't think we've had any Q&A, right? So I guess let's go ahead and have Debbie. We'll stop your sharing and have Debbie come in, and she'll tell you how to get paid if you're a veterinarian. And then we'll open it up so that people can have discussions if there are further questions.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to go over the NIMS courses that Dr. Wolker spoke about in his slides. For alert first responders, we do recommend 4 different courses for learning about incident command system and responses through that system. Those are available on the NIMS and FEMA website. I'll give you that website in just a moment. But the courses that you should take are ICS 100, ICS 200, IS 700, and IS 800. Those each vary in length, but they do offer CEU credits if those are important to you. So those are available at training.fema.gov/NIMS, NIMS. Those are all free courses. They're all self-paced. You just go to the website and select the course that you would like to complete. And then it opens up a page for that individual course that will give you information and description about that course. You just click on this interactive web-based course to get started on it. If you are interested in CEU credits, there's a box just below that. You'll need to take the final exam. And in order to take that, you'll need a student ID number. If you don't already have one through FEMA, there's directions here. Just follow that and get the student ID number in order to apply that when you take the exam and get your CEU credits. Once you open the course up, you'll be immediately into the format. So you'll have at the top, it'll show you which lesson that you're on, and you can navigate directly to a lesson there. You can also navigate through just from each page down at the bottom. And then you'll work through the lesson and then again, complete the final exam if you would like the CEU credits. There's instructions at the end of the course as well on how to do the final exam. If you do exit out of the system, it's supposed to say where you were at, but if it doesn't, then you can just go directly to the lesson you were working on in the top navigation area. That's everything that I have on the NIMS courses. I will send this out with links when we do the recording for the video. The next topic I'm going to discuss is the Arizona Procurement Portal. This is the system used by the state of Arizona to pay individuals or companies that do business with them. So we need all of our alert veterinarians to register with them. If you go out on an alert call and you need to be reimbursed for any expenses, this is the system you'll use to do that. And you need to be pre-registered in the system before you go on an alert call. Occasionally, other alert first responders or alert consultants will receive payment directly through this system. If you're going to be, then we'll work with you at that time to get you registered. So the Arizona Procurement Portal calls everyone suppliers. So you're going to register as a supplier. And it's actually a two-part process. The first part is registration, where you create an account and you provide your tax ID information. It's typically either your social security number, or if you're registering as a business, your EID number. And then after you do that part, you'll get an email that says that your account's now created. And so then you would need to complete the enrollment. The enrollment is where you log in and you just provide additional information, where your check is going to be mailed to and any other information that they need to send you that. And to begin, you'll go to app.az.gov, and there's a button for click here to register. You'll start with that. I've also created 2 YouTube videos, one for the registration process and one for the enrollment, that I will send to you that has specific information for our alert first responders. So again, once you complete part 1 of the supplier registration, you'll get an email indicating that your account is set up. Then you'll go in and complete part 2, enrollment. There will be a link in the email you can follow, or you can just go straight back to the website and log in there. You're not going to be able to receive payments from the state of Arizona until you complete both part 1 and part 2. These are just the links to the YouTube videos that I created, but I'll put those in the email so that you can click directly to them. I recommend that you just watch the video and then have the website available so that you can kind of flip back and forth as you fill things out. It's, for the most part, pretty straightforward on the information that they need. There are a couple of spots that you may need some assistance, and that's where the videos help. They just tell you exactly what you need to put in the boxes. And if there's any questions, I can go ahead and take those. But otherwise, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to Betsy.
So I guess at this point, if we have covered our main material, we can go ahead and pop everyone up to panelists. Okay, so everybody should be panelists now. So you can actually, and I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording because we don't need to record anymore on this.